golden sap. Jake would know the name of that, it's a long-leafed bottle. And that sap, if you put that in the hole where they've taken the tooth, then as it pulls the more and sterilises, then it pulls together. Straight across. Okay. I'll do you first. It's a red mark of protection. Sorry about the matches. There's much money in there. This is why when a lot of blackfellas who are not initiated, I'll do a smoking, they get newspaper and lighters and leaves crumble them up very, very fine. Is to walk through the smoke. Just walk through the smoke. Inhale it if you like, but make sure the smoke goes on you. Protect these people. I've asked for the 4 winds, the spirits of the 4 winds, as was written on the scribbly bark as well, to protect you people each time, not today but each time you come to this site, and I trust that you will respect the grandmother tree and pay homage to her when you go past, and I hope that you do not bring anyone here that does not have any respect for our sites or our people.
Piece of rock right where I'm standing now, or this piece of metal.
We're going to go to one spot, we're going to call it a boat side, and from there we're going to split up into 2. Can I just make one point that when we do start going, I just think it's really important, I think it's a really important point. Last time I came out here, I dealt with a person that really said they wanted to volunteer to become. From there we're going to split up into 2. Can I just make one point that when we do start going, I just think it's really important. I think it's a really important point. Last time I came out here, I dealt with
One of those other ones was.
Yeah. Okay, guys, let's do that.
I'm just trying to work out exactly what he wants here.
My name's Boris Branwhite, and basically I'm an orchid researcher. I go out in the bush and find new species of orchids and look around all over the place, and the areas I've been looking at are up around the Kariong Summersby Peninsula. Many years ago, probably mid-80s, I was first told about this site and decided to come and have a look. It wasn't until the late 90s, about 98, I first came up here physically and looked about. I've since located a friend through Facebook, which is really great sometimes. A friend's just found me. We were talking the other day. He was here when he was 6 years old with his grandfather, and that makes it 1957. So it's been around for quite some time recently, as far as I'm aware. In the late 80s, a person came up here to photograph the site, and because of all the lichen growth in the glyphs like there is at the moment, they scrubbed it down with sulfuric acid to get the lichen out of the glyphs and make them more stand out more so they could be photographed and drawn. That was late 80s. I think the site's probably recovered a little better now. The lichens have grown back, but there's obvious evidence of some of these symbols being touched up.
Okay, right now I'm here with Boris, and Boris is going to give us some information going back a fair way. Now, last night I managed to look at some of Ray Johnson's work and his letters, and I started to read a story here. And it seems to me, Boris has already spoken about the fact that in 1957, some people came and had a look at this. We know Bob Cummings as a young child came here in 1955, and we know from what we've read that the glyphs were not as defined as they are now, but they were there. Now, Boris, my understanding was that some Sydney Uni students came here and worked on this. When did that take place?
In the late 1970s, I believe. It's reported. I've never actually been able to confirm that, but there's been enough stories around that some university students from a Christian fellowship at Sydney Uni came up here and did some alterations. Apart from that, in the early 80s it was scrubbed down with brick cleaner, like sulfuric acid, and a brush to get all the lichen out of the holes so it could be drawn or photographed better for someone's project.
This is very important because one of the major complaints about the glyphs when we claim it is 4,700 odd years old is the relative newness. And what we've now got is a combination of stories. We've got the roof above that Boris has I've spoken to people about. The roof collapsed in 1960 when a bulldozer drove on top of it and it fell inside, which meant it was sealed off until that stage. People saw it before when it was much more worn, and then what we've now got is after that period of time, people have come back in here and worked it by regrooving what is already here, and that is the important point. It wasn't a group that brought a piece of paper and wrote in and copied it incorrectly. It's what they did, and they made mistakes in redoing this, and I think I can see a few myself, and there's one spot I'm not convinced is even, I think it's very recent. And then what we've got is further on, we've got some acid on top to bring it back out. And of course, after the 80s, once people start to look at it, by that time it's been cleaned by acid and been regrooved. The important point to remember, we have two different accounts in the 1950s of people finding this. So what that now gives us is a story as to what took place, the fact that it is incredibly ancient, and I can assure you that every Egyptian, every elder I've spoken to is insistent the Egyptians were here. And now we know why it looks so new. And of course, we've got to throw into that what Auntie Bev said is before that, the original women were coming here and coating this with women's urine. So even when it was older, they were still looking after it. So now we've got the full story leading up to today. And now what we're going to try and find out is where we take this next.
One of the reasons for the use of sulfuric acid or urine is that it's an acid. And on sandstone it slightly eats away the surface of the sandstone. And when you've got a glyph, if you put urine on that and paint it around with a brush, for example, push the urine in, you'll open up all the little pieces of silica that are just hanging on to the inside of that and make it a lot clearer.
So there's the story, ladies and gentlemen. The hoax part of this now is fully out the door because we've got testimonies in the 50s. We've got David Fitzgerald saying he came in 1978 and this place was full of rubbish and it was cleaned out then. And when he cleaned it out, it was there. Okay, and then what's taken place from that point is people then have played around with it. And yes, we do feel that some things have been added to, and there's a couple of glyphs here. That one in particular, I know the years have been changed because I've seen a series of photos where that's been added to, and maybe, just maybe, the whole of this particular glyph is a recent addition. I suspect it is simply because it's the only glyph here that is a depiction of a god. The rest are all symbols. It doesn't fit, and there's no other reference to that one. And I think what we're finding is people are grabbing a hold of that and then building up a story which is a lie. Now, the original people have told us en masse this is Egyptian. That really should be the end of this conversation. But of course, we've got to fight further. All right, we're going to start with this wall here, and I want to make a point. This is a wall here, and some people talk about this being one complete wall. It's actually two. Smaller one here and a bigger one down there. This part here is what I look at as the Egyptian part of the story. In fact, I've seen Ray Johnston's work, and you can actually get the name Nefer Djeb out of this cartouche here. We've got a symbol here for drought. We've got a story here about a ship that seems to be wrecked and the rowing that's taken place. I can see a complete Egyptian narrative in this section of this wall. This wall for me is definitely where the Egyptians came and put their part of the story. Ray's work is definitely right. I've got no issue with that. What I'm more interested in is the two walls that go down there, the second wall across there and the third running back, because that's a different part of this story and it's a more ancient narrative. This narrative is Proto-Egyptian. It took place 4,770 years. I want to go down to the next part of the story and look at that one separately. Okay. All right, now this is the part of the narrative I find the most interesting. And I'm going to start with this particular glyph here, which is a face on stick man. Egyptians do not do humans in stick figure. They always have a body, and normally, in fact, nearly every time it's in profile, this is face on. This is not a Proto-Egyptian glyph. In fact, these walls here, up there I get a 92% match. Down here I'm getting a 44% match with Proto-Egyptian and Ray's manual. I believe this represents the beginning of humanity. If you go up to this one here, you'll see 1, 2, 3 circles in a row. There is only one glyph that comes close to that. That's 2,800. And what we have there is 3 circles, 1, 2, 3, that represents chemical. I believe the chemicals have been stacked on top of one another, and you'll see 2 legs there. We'll focus on that one because as we come down, we'll see how that progresses. You'll see the sign here for the Sphinx, which includes the Egyptians as part of this story, and I think that's where they got this from. And up here we have something called the etheric region. What's interesting with that, the etheric region normally has 2 caps on it. This one has 3, which to me is an emphasis that this is even more holy than other places. For me, I've always believed this glyph here, you've got the 4 circles there, the rectangle there, and the 4 lines beneath is one of the most important glyphs. Simply because if I go back to Ray's manual, again, you will find nothing comes close. But there is one glyph that has 4 dots, that represents island. There is one glyph that has 4 lines underneath, that represents crystal. And all ship glyphs have a narrow rectangle. So this is a crystal ship based in an island, which is Australia. Now what is important about that is Uncle Reuben Kelly. He was the last Dunghutti elder, a very, very spiritual and traditional man, left us with a story that said his people came here in a spaceship, and when it hit the atmosphere, it turned to crystal. And this happened nearby the Dunghutti, one of the next tribes up in this region. So we suspect this is the beginning of a chronicle of what actually took place. Now I want to come down here a bit. You'll see the insignia for star, and here you'll see something that has a cap on the top, which is one of the UFO glyphs, and I'll talk about that in a second. So we begin to see something else here. We see the beginning of a spaceship of some form. Down here we've got the glyph for God. Down here we have the glyph for God again, and here we have the glyph for majesty. So something holy is taking place. But if we come across here, we'll see what it actually is. 1, 2, 3 again. And this time you've got the 2 legs, and you've got something standing out this way, and it's the beginning of 2 arms. We'll bear that in mind because we're going to see more of that. Come down a bit more. We have the glyph for Father. Next to Holy Majesty, next to God. So something that's involved in this is a being that has amazing powers. And can I remind you, original gods are not called gods, they're called sky heroes. Very important to keep that factored in. Coming down a bit further here is a very important glyph. You will see the 1, 2, 3 circles roughly, and this circle's been split by a shaft. It also looks like a genetic code, but forget that. We still have the circles now in the right direction, which is chemical, but something has gone through the centre and split it in half. Well, I can suggest to you, and it's possible, that could be the beginning of some form of genetic manipulation. If we come over to here, you will see the stars, the insignia again, an etheric region which means they've come from a holy place. Above here, I'd mistaken this as being DJ, which it is, but we've now found out from a very wise person that really does know their Egypt, this means the seed of life. The seed of life, the genetic manipulation and splitting of a gene code. There we've got the Father. We're beginning to get a story together. Now, let's continue this story. Let's come down to this one. And notice, smaller, smaller again, largest. This one has 2 legs, 2 distinct arms, and is holding something in his hand here now, so it's obviously a being that can make its own movements and carry things as it sees fit, and we've got the circle on top. I think that's the progression, and after that particular splitting there, you'll notice it's 3 times as big as that one. Down here we have an amazing glyph. There's nothing even close to it. We've got this piece across here, some sort of room there, a feather sort of object there, and something that looks like a burial chamber, but could also be some sort of creation piece. I think that's a laboratory. And beneath here, we have this 3 circles again. We have the arms there, the legs there, but look what's happened here. We've got this sort of wing-like protuberance coming through the middle. It either is wings, or could it be pregnancy? Could this be the first woman to bear the genes? And of course down here, just to remind us of this UFO presence, and of course there are 8 of these and they're all different. We have our first UFO down the bottom here with the, see the round circles there and the lines running off. We see this all the time. Okay, now coming along here a bit further if we can. Across here we see that cap again that we saw in the other one. We've got the line there and we've got the 3 arms, legs coming down, and we'll see some other ones that are even more advanced at this, and I'll talk about what they are as a group. What I seem to have here is a final statement about who's responsible for what we have over here. This particular glyph down here means sanctuary or oracle. This particular person, I think, is sitting in a spaceship, sitting in a chair. Original people don't sit in chairs, and you can see the control or some sort of panel is coming out of his stomach. Now, there is no glyph where there's something coming out of the stomach like that, so this one is a rather unusual one. Very tall, very large, and to the side I have the glyph for God again, and here I have the glyph that a lot of people have used to say it's a fake. It is not. It's in the manual, about 1,300, and it means heritage or lot, something that has been given by an oracle. So here we have the genetic makeup, the creation of this new species, which I call Homo sapien Pleiadian. And here somebody is imparting heritage and wisdom to these people to give them a guideline, and we call that the dreaming. And that's what I believe these space people, the Pleiadian people, gave to us. They gave us the tenet of how we should all live. And I think this section, which refers to the heritage, which people call the dog bone and say it's fake because of it, no, it is not. I've seen exactly the same markings in Ray's book. This tells us who did that, and this tells us what they gave us, the wisdom to get by. And we'll leave that one if we can, please, and we'll come down again, mate. Okay, what we've got here, I think, is a really important statement. We've gone to the third wall here, which has got the, I think, is a bit more exposed and is weathered. Ever since the roof came down in 1960, when a tractor drove above this and collapsed it, and the tractor driver said he knew what was above was actually artificial. This has been weathering since that time. Now what we have here is a very important story. It starts with another UFO glyph. You'll see a line coming down there, which they do. Then 1, 2, 3, 4 with the dots underneath. Then you've got an arrow marker. Then you've got another UFO again from the top. And by the way, jewelry, which some people claim this is, it is underneath. It's a bottom semicircle, and the lines come from the actual circle itself. These come from the straight part. We have two UFOs there. Then we have exactly the same glyph we had on the other wall. Notice how this piece is coming out in the center. He's sitting in here. I believe this is the leader or the captain of this spaceship. And here we have a fascinating glyph because that represents the word Lord. And here we have 1, 2, 3 lines from our crystal spaceship. We have the rectangle there, and we have the glyph there for crystal. But it's upside down and broken up. I believe this is where the spaceship that Uncle Reuben spoke about broke up. And then we come across to what I think is the escape pod for this captain or leader. And this one is very important. You've got the same arc we've seen before. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 legs, then some smaller ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 legs in all. What is really important about this one is we've now found another UFO that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 legs with the dots underneath and has the same sort of spherical marking there and the base across there. Now the one we found elsewhere is about 5 to 6 meters long and has a line through the center because it's a bigger one. And we think that represents the crystal spaceship. And what we're finding here with this UFO and with the other UFOs that spread through across the whole thing, I think these are the escape pods that have actually ejected when this thing blew up. And I think they landed here and thus begun that story. And notice underneath there is our 3 circled friend again with the legs there. And across over here we have somewhere close, and I've lost it for now because this damn thing is so hard to look at. I have my 3 circles and the wings, but I can't seem to find that at the moment. Let me stand back because it definitely is here. There it is, up there. Remember on the other side, here it is again. 1, 2, 3 circles with the wings again and the 2 lines underneath. These are deliberate, they're not accidents. There's our gentleman again, once again steering this ship. You'll find this runs all the way through here. So ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is at least two narratives. We've got the Egyptian narrative here. We've got the much more ancient narrative here of the Pleiadians. And I say Pleiadians simply because That's what the elders give me, and that's what every dreaming story in this country talks about with the 7 sisters. And elder after elder have used that word. Therefore, that's what I claim it to be, because that's what they tell me. It's as simple as that. This story runs further across there. I'll find parts there about the way that they set up their civilization here. There are glyphs here for street. There are glyphs here for ancient city. There are glyphs here that show me the forts they created were unprotected. This was a peaceful, long-term interaction between Egyptians, between original people, and going further back with Pleiadian people creating a new race that began in this country. Remember, Arnie Bev calls this the beginning place. Here is the beginning. Okay.
There's none other up this way. I'll just have a quick look. I don't think there is. Not. Is there any coffins up here? No coffins on it.
I fell down a 300-foot cliff too.
God, you really tried hard. I had to go back.
And a logging truck was coming down the road straight at her, and she got up and ran with 2 broken legs. She didn't feel a thing and then she threw herself in the ditch. And when they found her, she was digging in the ditch to try. Oh, no, it was funny because it was with my ex-husband, and everything was just going bad from bad to worse, and I couldn't see a way out of it. It's a bit like that. I didn't leave. I went bang, and I was walking down my hallway, absolutely, totally in control of who I was, and walked up and I said, "This is it, we're finished." And this man, I had him sick, and switched me into a totally different reality.
Wow.
Yeah, and a few weeks later I met Paul.
Amazing.
In Scotland they make some beautiful alcoholic cider. They drink it by the gallon. It's unbelievable.
That's I remember in England. I went to some of the summer festivals, sitting outside the Scrumpy Jack.
Oh yeah.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Or the guy about to get run over,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden this figure just come and teleported him. It was
Yep.
on court. Wow.
And it was like, okay. But I believe that's what we do sometimes at night. We get called out to go and help
Yeah.
in places, because I'm forever being called out to go and help in earthquakes and volcanic things. It was so funny when I told my ex-husband it was over. It was Christmas Day. And my children said, "Oh, what's about the
Boris, I've said, yeah, they've used their own thinking and they've put together what they think is
I'm
close.
thinking that's the uni students, because I know they did make alterations.
Yeah. Oh, I've got no doubt that was done by the uni students. I tell you what it's not. Somebody says it's a pregnant woman. I've been to every glyph, and there's no glyph that comes even close to that for a pregnant woman. The pregnant woman glyphs are very, very explicit. The baby is coming out of the vagina, and it's really obvious this is a birth. Sharp, separating, going straight through the centre there.
This here, there's a few of those around in the area. And
Next is we're going to the new set of glyphs. Let's go. I've got no doubt that was done by the uni students. I feel that is dead set. It doesn't fit with anything. And look where it's placed. It doesn't belong to that. It doesn't. It's not part of the story at all. This is actually the Egyptian part of the story. This is the story of the. What is this to? There's one up there. I think you're going to find that's a surveyor marker. They put a couple in there and they dug them into the rock. I know what you're talking about. I've seen another one. I got done with that for a while too, mate. I wrote it down for a couple of days. Well, you guys aren't too far, but I'm going to pull it more in soon. Okay, and send it to Ryan here.
That's alright.
Yes, there's always up through there. It's a beautiful place to go forward. You think, oh, that's a nice place.
Okay, we're going to start walking down now, guys.
That's a dreaming trail marker.
Come on there.
That one there's a
Dreaming trail marker. Thank you.
It's on a flat wall. It's vertical. That tells you that where you are, you're part of it. You're on the dream. You're right on the dreaming trail. You're on the dreaming trail.
Thank you.
It doesn't tell you what dreaming trail it is.
Right, we've done this one before earlier, but I've been given new information since, which I really think is really important because it completes the picture we thought we had fully done. This, as I've said before, represents coffin. There is no argument that. I have some experts working with it at the moment. They've agreed that is coffin. This is some sort of marker of distance where the coffin is found, and as we've said earlier, that represents door, and that insignia up there represents back door. So we're showing, what we're basically saying here is the coffin is placed at a distance from here in the back shaft that we looked at. The important one, I think, is this one here. I've been given information. I believe it is this one. If not, it must be the one there, but I'm pretty sure it's this one. And what this says is, this is a special staff. This staff can only be given to royalty. And when they die, special spells are inscribed on here, and they're supposed to take this shaft with them, which I believe would be placed in the coffin, and those spells ward off evil spirits so that there can be a smooth transition into the afterworld. What's important about this is not given to commoners. So when we read about Nefertari dying in this place, and when he was placed in this coffin, placed in the back shaft, he was given, as would be expected, special funerary objects. And this is a very important part of this, which means that this burial must be the pharaoh, and we don't claim a pharaoh is here, or the son of a pharaoh, and of course the glyphs claim exactly that. So that's an important part of this story. And very briefly, to add to that, we have another one over here which represents, and this one represents here, there's the glyph of a scorpion, and that represents a scorpion king, and this one actually represents germination, the creation of something, the appearance of something. And can I suggest to you that we, from our understanding, that this was the first place the Egyptians actually left their stories behind. This is the germination of this particular group that's appeared. This represents the Scorpion King, which we know is very much an Egyptian part of this story, and this one I haven't quite read yet. And there's something up here I'm not sure about, which may also be part of that. So what we seem to be reeking here of is royalty of some form. Royalty of some form. The beginning of something over here, and the end of something over here with the death, and where that person was placed and how important they were. We believe, and this is some considerable distance from the glyphs, and I'm not going to tell anyone where it is because I don't think you need to know that. What you do need to know is it is actually a marker that points towards the glyphs. And bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, whether we claim this was done before, I don't believe it was, because if you look at these, you'll find they are 1/3 the size of the ones on the glyph and are much, much shallower engraving. So I believe this was done by a different hand. I think this was done by original people to tell us where those glyphs were. This is part of that same story, and of course we've now found more glyphs we'll talk about later, but this for me is verification. And of course the last thing, and thank you very much for Boris, I was going to do it again, is when I came here before, I thought I was very clever reading this, and I was quite proud of myself for reading this. And as Binna pointed out when he looked at this the first time, did you mention that? Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you look above here, you'll see that this rock face here protrudes up. So when the water's running through here, it will run directly over and fall down there. That's why this has been protected. There's a shelf on this side to protect it too. What the hell is this? Because look, it goes right in as far as my finger can go, and I still am not reaching the end here. That is not natural. There's a sharp cut there. There may be a little bit of engraving. It may have weathered a bit there, but that piece cutting in there is not natural. It is right next to that and right next to that. That has been put there. This is part of that story. What it means, I don't know yet. We're still working on that, but I can guarantee you that particular piece of work there, and it is incredibly deep and it's very, very smooth running in at one angle there. That didn't come about through natural formation. That's been done. Another part of that story which we can't read yet. Until I did an interview with David and Arnie Bev, I had never made any public statement about the authenticity of the glyphs. I'd let others do that. I talked about all the Egyptian stuff that I'd found elsewhere, and I wasn't going to touch that line. Once I spoke to Arnie, David and Bev, that gave me the direction I needed. I would not go this way without their words and their guidance. So for me, these two people being here today is integral. If we're going to go further, we have to go with them as our guides. It's Arnie Bev that said, and David, they both know that this place, the Egyptians were there. That is a given. And I'm not letting anyone come on site that doesn't accept that. If they don't accept that, they don't come. Arnie Bev spoke about the fact that there are older writings. I didn't know that. Once I was told that, I became obsessed by that. That became a new part of my guidance and where I've taken this.
And to this day, the bloody old fella never knew what it was. I'm sorry.
Swear
And this day, and you know what? And I've been told that story a few times. If only they'd have said they were there to learn, but they knew everything. If they'd have said, "What's that for?" The fellas probably would have told them. Oh, well, yes, that's that, isn't it? Isn't it? Oh, yes, Marcy. Yeah. Why ask the little black fella? Why would he know? Anyway, getting back to these symbols, Percy said that some of those he'd studied and found for water and for air and for some other things, they were the same as in the Tamil language, right? And Tommy nodded his head and he said, yes. Well, that's from the ancient people.
Changed it by good, but you know, if you went down Gingerbine and asked me,
Oh boy, doesn't that look like the one on the floor down there? And she, being the Director General of the Cairo Museum of Antiquities, anyone in Australia has to bow in her presence, the way I see it. But they don't. You can do one more? Okay, one more. Cool, yeah, no problem. What I find fascinating is this piece sort of inside here.
Yeah, that's another method. Like rock that goes all the way around. Like you follow that same wall all the way up, all the way around. There's a couple of circles. Not much else though. Yes. Hello, darling.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you.
Alright, we're down the bottom as far as you can go into the shaft, and could be a passage that way, which is basically east, and then there's this bit down here which seems to be going nowhere at the moment without being dug out further. This solid rock there. This sounds more hollow down below, so that would need to be dug out. going towards the cliff walls, we have this area which goes quite a way in and needs to be dug out more. Could be another passage. It's all tipped sideways, and yeah, there we go. So we'd like to dig some more of this out, or someone could. Okay, and that's looking up to where we're coming back in again. So we'll just endeavour to get out of here now. Right.
Holy shit. Put it to the cause.
Yeah, still filming. Goes down pretty deep.
So tell us what you see down there.
Well, I just described it. There's more like shafts going this way. One back to the wall, which looks like it'd be just under the floor really if it went much further. And this one runs under this big rock here. Don't know how far back. And then there's goes down, looking like onto another level, but not quite sure if there is another chamber in that lower level. I'll have to check out those X-rays a bit more.
Yeah.
So you know where the tree told me to go?
Tree, I think it's like a birthing tree. It's a birthing.
Man, hey! The caveman. Got another black man coming out. You even got the hair for it, mate. How'd you go?
Lou's got a bit of soil out and sort of cleared it out going that way a little bit.
In the tunnel or down in
Yeah,
the
and
bottom?
that bit that comes back this
Yep.
way. But yeah, it just needs extensive digging out.
Yeah, doesn't it?
And I think we're at the stage where we should look at something seriously about getting back.
We don't want to go over the work doing.
Do it properly.
Yeah.
But right now I might take my machine and go down where that other fella found that piece of metal
This,
and have a little swing around there.
Yeah.
Will you guys pull a bit more of that out maybe?
way before that.
Let me tell you, when you look at our
Oh, head torch.
Flying Island,
Yeah.
but if you look at it the right way, that is.
Do you think this was done recently?
Yes, I do.
It's an addition.
I've looked at that in a lot of detail. I've got pictures of the years being added
Yeah,
onto
it's quite
this.
different, isn't it?
Oh, and look at it. And it doesn't, everything else is a symbol, not a depiction of something.
Have you shown him this one down
And
here?
this isn't Anubis, this is Seti, right?
Sorry, mate?
Shown him this one down here?
Yeah, we've been into genetic engineering, of course we're doing it. This, in the early days we were thinking this is Anubis,
No,
of
it's
course.
Seti.
Carrying out, but now we understand it's Seti. And you can see that it's been done at a later. I came along here 20 years ago and it was, but after I'd seen it, and then so I came along and they put a cast over it of, I think it was bitumen. It was very hard to get off, but obviously they either did it either to obscure it or to...
It's a red herring.
Yeah.
It's a red herring to say the whole thing's fake. It's a red herring. Only Minnie Mace, when she came with Ray Johnson the first time, because Ray did it, the Proto-Egyptian here, when she actually was walking between the walls, and I think it was up there, when she was up there, she bent down and picked this up. Now see this here, see that part there, that clasp originally went all the way around the perfect circle, and one of the kids was wearing it and snapped off the top, so that was a perfect circle there, perfectly flat on this side, and this was found between the two glyphs, and when you hold it you'll notice something about the metal.
Light.
Mm,
Very strong.
There's no iron or lead in it, it's not European. Now there's either two options there, that's either metal that the Egyptians had, and that could be part of his jewellery when he was buried. It comes off the Pleiadian spaceship.
Yeah. No,
one of
it's,
those stones.
we've had you know what Astadatu means, don't you? 8 metals. Astadatu. Astadatu is a particular when they make representations of the Supreme, and they also throw in emeralds and diamonds and rubies into the melting molten mix to make this representation. And so you know they're not we're not talking iron here. We're talking a particular brilliant technology to be able to do that. And wow, this is beautiful. Reminds me very much of the Lemuria. Well, it looks very much like a.
Can you see the foot there?
Right.
Can you see how it's knelt forward and it's kneeling up in supplication?
Just show that to the camera.
Oh, sorry, camera. You'll see the foot there. You can see the definite mark where the foot came onto the clasp.
Yep.
I can see the knee, and then you can see it running back there with the buttocks there. Then something going on there. But because it's 4,500 years old, or maybe much older, it's obviously been knocked around over a period of time.
Yeah.
That tends to happen.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like I can see someone kneeling there in supplication.
There are many things about this. Let me just take a picture.
You're most welcome to. So we talk to Michael Cremo about it and tell him what we've got on. We're sharing this with everybody. Well, that's the whole deal with it.
Oh, of course.
Because guess what? This is original culture and it's all free until money turned up, and we're not working under that assumption. So yeah, that's a little piece of artefact. We've also got a bone that we think could be Nefertari's bone, but we're going to look at that separately. And she gave me that one too. I knew she gave that also.
Oh, awesome.
We think it's the top of a femur bone.
There was nothing found here though, in the way of bones.
No, well
that would have been stripped out a long time ago.
Oh yeah, well,
One would think.
one would think.
Yeah.
But you don't always get what you think sometimes. All I can say is you might think that there's no bones here.
No, I think there must be.
There are.
Don't worry.
Well, we're getting to that, but death is not a good thing, is it, mate, to get to it?
Okay, so yeah, we've been on a few missions, as you all know. We've been on a few last few days, found some pretty awesome stuff. One big spaceship, it's about 4 meters long, carved into a rock. Just down off the edge over here.
When you say spaceship, could you describe the shape of it?
Big ellipse like this, line like this, just like one of the glyphs. One's coming down, two big legs with big circles on it. And then a square box on the bottom.
Does it look more proto-Egyptian? Like, does it look proto-Egyptian?
It's the same configuration as the one from the wall.
This
It's
one
the same
compared
proportion.
earlier.
It's got 5 arms.
This much taller,
It's a cracker, eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like
And off each side with these big feet, and then the square box below it. So.
Have you ever seen it, Jake?
Oh, not so much carved in stone, but up in the sky around that area, that's one of the highest
UFO, we were talking about that last night. Have you seen that? Have you seen that particular one?
I don't know, I've seen so many amazing
Let's
in the area.
Yeah.
That's what
big it
I
is. It's clips,
Oh, that's pretty wild, eh? That's massive.
yeah, it's pretty huge.
What is
There's only
that?
half
Is that
of
in
it as
the
well.
proximity of that area?
Yeah, look, these are glyphs.
Show you there,
Glyphs here, right? It's just there, it's just there.
And what does it look like? Does it look like it's been pecked in?
It's definitely been packed in.
Pecked in?
Yeah,
Oh,
whole thing.
Nice,
Aboriginal
right.
style
Pecked.
pecked,
Yeah, that's
Yes.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, well, it is unreal because that area there, that's sort of like nearly a connection to the what they call them, the Wonder Bar with the sky people, that sort of.
oh yeah.
That's all. Some of the really old ones, it's been sitting there for a long time. There's been changes. There's been some organic material in there that's been burnt away. A lot of the really old-looking ones that I find seem to have that darkness about them. They're kind of flat. They're not too deep, but they're very very dark inside the petroglyph. Because that way it would look like. I have seen this. Sideways it would look like nearly like what the whale looks like. Was there any little fins coming off the side? It's not a whale, is it?
No.
But you see it side on and it would be very much like a whale or one of the sunfish that have that similar shape, and then the bands across the middle that we see there is the belt of Orin, and only they've probably told you the belt of Orin is what they named Orimba after, which is actually made up of 2 words, Orin, which was the belt made up of possum hair and your ancestors' hair, and Bora, which is a Bora ring, of course, where the men were initiated, so the Orin Bora, thus the name Orimba, which was a sacred initiation ground. And it looks very much like that side on. But it might this might be a bit of a link in the actual roots of that story and how that engraving came to be, or that story came to be, because you look at the side on, look a bit like a jellyfish or something. But
yeah, that's what it is in like
because it's proto-Egyptian, it's very much
coming off the
it's
side.
very much like the glyphs in the Kariong area. It makes it even more fascinating because it is one of the glyphs. Yeah, just gone bigger.
Just bigger.
I can't think of his name. Up at Gosford Library, he's got a copy of it, and he is happy to have people look at it as long as they don't take it out of the library. But it's got a bit about the glyphs,
Local histories.
about a whole heap of different things, yeah.
Thank you.
Massive amounts of sightings in that time.
Right.
Yeah, hold it down this little rock platform in here, down in the creek. There's heaps of gardens down there. Dave Fitzgerald,
I've heard heaps about him. He was the ex-National Stars of
He's going
Hey, lots of
Further down, you're going to look for that big
from
Durham.
Sydney, there's so much bush around there. It's like tree hugger's heaven.
She's gorgeous.
You could lose for 50 years and there'd still be trees to fight for.
Didn't picture it. So
You
can some camping down there.
Can you, is that Waterfall Bay there?
Yeah.
Oh mate, there's a cave there that's just amazing. There's like archaeological levels are so clear. And it's got that same thing where it's built up the organic material over time. You can see it's got that black sort of slime in the cracks. It's really, really old.
7 tendrils.
I think it's 7, yeah. 7 tendrils coming off the top of the head. It's like just absolutely mind-blowing.
7.
No, they're both male.
7.
7.
And really interestingly, over near a place that a lot of people used to skateboard called Whale Rock, there was anthropomorphic petroglyph, which was a hermaphrodite, so it had both male and female
And this is what they say, like prior to us, we were a one-sexed, well, hermaphrodite, both sexes.
Asexual, maybe.
And how did I react? I forgot it all.
Well, there was about 7 or 8 figures on there, but I don't know if everyone realised that they were pictures of that direct area at Kariong.
Where's that?
Okay.
This is
He's
fine.
behind you. He's behind
It's
you.
got to be your fault, man.
Because I was standing and I was waiting for everyone to like blow their load over it, and I was like, just didn't hear anything.
And did
about
you
it,
hear
you know?
nothing?
Not really, no.
No, I can assure you. Oh, what?
Okay, what's important about this particular area here is that this marking here, which we thought, when I looked at it last night, I thought it's nearly an identical copy, much larger than what's on the glyph, with the 5 arms that we've got across there, the dome, the sort of spherical top there, and that line running through there. But what's really important with this is it's pecked. All the ones in the glyphs have been cut into the ground. They've been carved in with some sort of instrument. This has been hit slowly. Now, some of these peck marks here are incredibly faded and old. This is thousands and thousands of years old. And it is basically an enlarged version of what we see on the walls. And it's a fair way away from the walls again. So what we have here is what looks incredibly like a UFO that has been pecked, which takes it back thousands upon thousands of years. This is not a fake copy, and it gives us the impression that what they were trying to tell us on the walls, they figured, well, if you don't get it this way, we'll leave something behind that's really in your face so you can't argue about it. We're going to measure this up, but I am very confident the proportions I see here I saw in the wall. This is a very important site, and it tells us, like we're starting to begin to believe, that not only were the Egyptians here, but the people who made these objects, which look so much like a UFO, were here too. Very hard to get to any other possible conclusion but that. We'll measure this up and find out how it comes up in proportion, but I already know the answer, but we'll go through the process anyway. To calm those who still want to doubt.
Yeah, the next line across. Oh yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Go from here to here.
From here to here. Yeah.
Well, let's see, we're 162. Yeah.
I'll just come down the next one.
162, yeah.
So 167. This one. This little landing pad thingy.
Yeah.
Okay, what we've got here is what seems to be a very steep pyramid that runs down in this direction down here all the way through to here, then starts to run down on the other side on an angle and then stops. What's really important is, for those people who think this could be a natural formation, is when you pick the line up again down here, if I take the line of this angle here and run it like that, it runs perfectly. So what you've got is maybe 70 degrees, then a break, and it picks up at exactly 70 degrees again. The chances of that happening natural are remote. What's equally important is when you come down to this side, you have something that's heavily engraved all the way down through there, runs through there, and I can even see here peck marks. On the bottom here, 1, 2, 3, and I can see the peck mark on that side, the peck mark on that side, I can see a peck there, and I can see a peck there. This has been pecked and rubbed in and sort of opened up. It runs up the top there, and then there are some other circles and stuff which don't show up as well today, but we've got them in another photograph and we can load them up. That to me, with the rectangle underneath and the steep sides like that, what is really important here is that the glyphs, we have some very steep sided pyramids again with a rectangular base. So we'll measure this up and look at the proportions of this one, and as we've done before, we'll compare it to the other ones there. I would think the chances of this being not natural are about 99%. It could be natural, but I'm not inclined to think it isn't. Plus there are some markings above, and one of those markings is 4 dots. And 4 dots in Proto-Egyptian mean island. So I'm suggesting once again that this is another part of that story we've got in the walls over there, and this section here, like the UFO we found elsewhere in that region, they're taking one part of that and emphasising it. Before they emphasised the alien part of this story, now we seem to have a pyramid with a base at the bottom. They seem to be taking certain glyphs here and taking them off to other places. It could be natural, but I severely doubt it, simply because of that, and because of that continuation of the same line running through there. I think it's very old because some of these lines here are now starting to disappear a fair bit. I think it's been up here for quite some time. I'd be very surprised if there's anything up and handmade.
And then we have the cave.
And you've done this one over.
Yeah, put down the question mark now, I didn't see that.
This is seriously about a 50-metre walk to from where we started.
But we need
Yeah,
to
come to that.
come back.
There you go.
It goes to
There it is, bud. Might be hot in there, bud. Trying to explain to this other idiot about the ridging. He said, oh, it's natural. It's beautiful. Said what?
New Grange, Christina Barnes said that they've got these in Ireland.
And they look at them as a portal.
That is a portal.
It's most certainly a
That's
portal.
exactly what happened to Dottie Shawnee when he was here.
Have you
He
lied in
went-
this before? No, I haven't. But that's obviously what it is.
Warm as it is.
No. I'm feeling a lot of energy, but I'm not actually travelling.
They're actually
Don't have to
showing
travel.
me that you start sitting from up the top.
You sit up here.
Yeah. You start sitting right there with your bum back further. You start from there and then you move your way down.
So just gradually.
Yeah.
So you're just sitting the whole time?
No, you sit when you get to that other ledge there.
You lie when you get to it.
But you like, yeah. Serious sugars.
Put it with the other medicine.
Jason's frozen rock has got a lot of iron in it.
He's going to stay. Sam's going to stay after we go. Yeah, he said, it's okay.
Yeah, we see
The new bits.
Stand directly where that guy said he found it.
Yeah, I asked him. No.
Start again. Oh. Okay.
Let's leave the channel, the portal. I don't know what the hell's doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, go for it.
Just in case, at least I could do.
I need you.
Oh, that's actually the way I do it. It may not be elegant, but then again, God gave us a backside to live.
There was sea here. How come there was sea here? Water, the sea. The sea. Where would the sea be? Sea energy.
A lot higher, according to a transcript I typed up yesterday for Noel from one of the dowsers who went to Gympie. He said that the water was very much higher at the time when the pyramids at Gympie were
It just feels like
put
there
in
was
place.
this was all water and Atlantean stuff. Yeah.
And actually, Jerry Bostock, he said the other day that when the ship went down, it was very much deeper. The area has silted up now.
Have they ever found the ship?
I don't believe so, but maybe it's buried under all the silt. Possibly. There's a place up at the top, which was perhaps the birthing place. Do you want to ask Steve?
Yeah, because it needs to be a big circle because there's something opening now.
Yeah. So
it's being.
Is there somewhere we can get to?
Well, Steve, do you think perhaps the channel, that place up on the top would be a good place to gather and?
Oh God, gee. It is so sacred. We've had some ladies laying there. Every one of them's had amazing experiences. I think it's really important you guys go there.
Yeah. If anybody wants to know the effect that high frequency sound has on matter, have a look at cymatics and how high frequency sound will coalesce matter into the most beautiful geometric shapes. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. And there's a theory that the Earth was formed with one sound, which must have been a hell of a sound in 1 minute. And there's an American scientist who's done some research on what they call the basement rocks of the planet, which are basalt. And this was back in the 50s or the 60s, I think. And it seems that these basement rocks were formed in minutes. And of course he was disgraced, he was sacked, his grants were cancelled, and I'm still trying to find out who it is. But it all fits in with the fact that, in the beginning was a sound, and then all this came together.
And now the sound's breaking all the illusion parts, and that's why it's so important for each of us to today bring out the sounding, because we all are representatives of whatever it is.
Yep.
And so it's our signature that needs to ground today on behalf of the ancients, the future, past, the present, coming into the now.
Cool. Sound is also part of some of the ceremonies in lifting huge weights in creating pyramids and various other architectural work. That's well documented in Tibetan and other Buddhist.
And just for the record, our beautiful grandmother tree down at the bottom, on the way in, when I tuned into it, she said, "The children are coming." So that's us, of all the nations. Isn't that beautiful?
further down.
Hey guys, how are you? Are we in your way? Just walk around us or go whichever which way you want to go?
Is there anything further to see up here?
Yeah, basically this will just come up here.
Feel it. And that's what it felt like to me. That's the feeling I got.
Well, now I'm going to start talking like that, but I need a
You have
confirmation
to,
first.
the thing you have to trust yourself. If you felt that, you've got to go.
Well, I did that straight away when I
Yeah.
picked that up. I just sort of said, Crystal, I've got elder stories saying that they came here into a ball of energy when it hit the atmosphere, it turned into crystal and exploded. And then the crystal shards are going to fall all over the place. I believe because of the heat involved, that this would be exactly what I expected to find. And this didn't happen naturally. We know that. I mean, even the skeptics. Ah, Four Winds, he smoked all of us, put us through full ceremony. And we're going to be given more. I'm coming back on November the 1st to be given stuff that makes this look like a 101. There's more stuff. This alien stuff.
I don't know for years, but not seriously.
Oh no, do you know Grease and people down below as well too, so.
Ready to catch them.
Is there anyone around here that has a pen that's a little more cooperative than the one I've got at the moment?